I will say that people are saying, well, if everyone's using it so much, where's the economic impacts? Like, even though ChatGPT was like one of the fastest growing companies, the revenue they're making in from their subscription is still um, not more than their expenses. We can see that we're getting diminishing returns, we're plateauing. So there we do need some more breakthroughs. However, it's not like we've maxed out yet. There's still value to be
Right.
had on the foundational model side. It's just like not growing as fast, which we can see. But then on the application side, I think it's not really fully embedded. Like Figma Make recently came out and it's just starting adoption. So those type of
Right.
things I think will still keep compounding in the meantime.
Hello and welcome to What Would Jesus Tech? I'm excited to be here, guys. Merry Christmas to you all.
Merry Christmas.
And my name is
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Noble, and I am a PhD student. I'm also a professor in a month. You can still sign up for my course. You should right now, link in the description. It's going to be a small class size, less than 10 people probably. So it'll be a lot of discussion, primary text anyways, on technology and the Christian life. Austin, you are in the middle of Christmas without being on social media at all. How's that going?
I wouldn't say without being on social media at all. I've been dabbling in some TikTok evangelism and apologetics around the virgin birth, which is so much fun. It's too much fun. If left unchecked, that will just eat all my attention and time, and so I'm having to kind of rein it in a little bit. But yeah, it's going good otherwise.
And Joel, how's your I mean, we're only recording at the beginning of December here, but are you enjoying your Advent season?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, the rest of it, and we're enjoying it currently. The big thing, it's interesting that people came back from Thanksgiving and they're like, oh, I got to catch up on work. And then Cisco actually has a week-long shutdown where they're like, hey, everyone just take the time off. So then people stack holidays on top of that or PTO on top of that. So you actually get time to disconnect and engage with all of these other things, family, hobbies, this, that. So really
That's
looking
pretty
forward
awesome,
to this
actually.
time. Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, there should be, I think about that for ministry sometimes where, pastors need a sabbatical or stuff like that. Like it's similar in the tech world when you have banked time
Mhm.
off or banked time for innovation. It's similar to what a professor gets. Anyways, today's episode is on the state of AI. And just to give our listeners a heads up, we will be getting into our 2025 predictions. So some of our predictions related to AI, in particular, I predicted the rise of AI agents, but there is also a number of other predictions that we're going to cover off on the end of this episode. But first, the state of AI. Joel, would you summarize the state of AI as kind of we did the AI bubble episode. I don't want to cover the question of the bubble. I'm talking about people actually using AI, finding benefit from it, and kind of the changing landscape around some of these tech companies because of so-called red alerts and people kind of saying that things are going in a different direction into 2026. So what do you think, Joel?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's interesting. So I think, okay, I'll speak on a couple points. One, as a user, two will be as a researcher, developer, and then I'll kind of cap off with like generally. So as a user, I think that I have just consistently been increasing my usage of AI, both in like personal and in work. So even in personal, we just started sending out Christmas cards, for example. We're like, hey, like here are all the addresses, format it so you can print it on these labels. This is the Avery number of the label sheet that they make, so it knows like all the cut lines, die cut lines, and then formats it and you print it. And I'm like, that would have taken like someone an hour of time and just took 2 3 minutes, which is really impressive that like there are these like practical savings we're having right now, but it isn't necessarily translating to like, oh, look at this like GDP growth on the chart, you know. So yeah, personally I'm using it at work. There's a company called Figma, and Figma
Mhm.
does designs. It's kind of like Adobe competitor. Adobe almost
No,
acquired them
Adobe's
actually.
Adobe's biggest competitor. Adobe's biggest
Yeah.
competitor.
Yeah, and how they're often used in the tech world is user design. So you're like, hey, this is what the screen's going to look like, and we'll work on the mock-ups and where are the buttons going and what's the user flow, and you talk with engineering and product about it. So they came out with a product called Figma Make, where it's like, well, I'll give you a prompt and you like generate it all on the fly. And now you can do that with customers in conversations. And that like really increases the fidelity and knowledge transfer of like, what did you mean when you said you wish you could do this action? You know,
Mm.
would you like this? Oh, how about this? And like you can actually like iterate faster to the better design when it would have taken so much longer. So a lot of people are using not just ChatGPT, but even like AI embedded to all of these enterprise products in their workplace. So I think consumption has really grown, at least in my point of view. And then I'll pass it back to you because I am interested to hear your points of view. But before I do that, I will say that people are saying, well, if everyone's using it so much, where's the economic impacts? And there
Mm.
was two high profile AI speakers that recently came on Dwarkesh podcast, which um, it's kind of like maybe the newer Lex Friedman. I don't know if you know about Lex Friedman, but so Andre Karpathy and then Ilya. I can't actually pronounce his last name, Sutskever or something like that. I
CEO of
apologize in
Anthropic.
advance. He was ex CTO of OpenAI, and he now started his own company called Thinking Machines. And he was like, he's one of the guys who was like, "Can you
And
feel the AGI?" So
Well,
he's
that
like,
guy.
yeah, it's like he was like, a little bit of hair loss. He was like one of the four founding members with Sam Altman. I think actually things came out that he kind of was maybe partially behind the coup with Mira Murati, so to speak. So yeah, he's like really high profile, and everyone would meme and say, "What did Ilya see? Why did he like throw the red flag in the brakes? Maybe he saw AGI." So that was one guy who talked about AI in general, and then Andre Karpathy led Tesla self-driving for 10 years and was like really like trying to apply neural nets to vision and like physical embodied AI. So a lot of them spoke about it. They talked about like, yeah, the economic impact question and stuff like that. But yeah, we can get into that a little bit later. Let's
what did
let's
they
talk
say? I
about
mean, you're just
what do you
setting it
guys
up.
think?
I know you're trying to bounce it back, but I want to know what they thought.
I think yeah. So Karpathy Andre, he was like saying that when you look actually at the Industrial Revolution and these other major innovations that we've had in our society, and you zoom out on like the GDP chart for the world, it's not like you actually see this big blip. It's kind of like included in that compounding because it's like a exponential curve. So it a takes a while to like get into the noticeable GDP output, but B, it's not like an instant shift. Although if you kind of look at like that period of time, you can see that there is like an acceleration. So we'll probably see the same thing with AI where it's like, yeah, like on the larger time scale, it's not really noticeable. But when you actually look on like, hey, like there are these things you can see as the first indicators of GDP growth. But I think people largely still question it, right? Like if you're looking at stock market companies are saying like AI has caused us this much revenue, it's not as pronounced. Like even though ChatGPT was like one of the fastest growing companies, the revenue they're making in from their subscription is still um, not more than their expenses.
Well, and
So it's not, yeah.
Meta's stock dropped pretty substantially after one of their last earning calls where Zuckerberg announced more investment into their AI division, and the response was just complete skepticism on behalf of investors, and their stock tanked pretty rapidly from it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They actually did this before when they said they're gonna invest a lot in metaverse, and everyone's like,
Yep.
"Oh, metaverse is nothing," and then stock tanked. And then now they're like, "We're gonna invest a lot in AI," and again it tanked. And then they actually just like said they're gonna scale back metaverse. So like a couple weeks ago, stock went up.
The metaverse was never coming just because Zuckerberg said it was.
Yeah, I do wonder if we have. We'll get to that in the predictions because Meta was
We
actually in
will.
our predictions. But in any in any case, yeah, like so maybe I'll wrap up the conversation quickly on what these experts are saying. They're saying that the scaling of like just add more compute, we can see that we're getting diminishing returns. We're plateauing. So there, we do need some more breakthroughs. However, it's not like we've maxed out yet. There's still value to be had on the foundational model side. It's just like not growing as fast, which we can see. But then on the application side, I think we're still, it's not really fully embedded. Like Figma Make recently came out and it's just starting adoption. So those type of things I think will still keep compounding in the meantime.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to think about these different statements and how they can almost seem contradictory. So on one hand, you make a phrase like diminishing returns, that some of the training that is happening or the available data to train AI on is diminishing. So we're seeing less growth there. We're seeing less improvements in certain areas. And so there needs to be new innovations, So on one hand, it feels like, oh, AI innovation is slowing down. But then all of a sudden, Gemini 3 comes out and it impresses everyone. And it clearly shoots above many benchmarks. So it does better and better on these tests and benchmarking is like a legitimate field now that's been around for years. Like, so it is measuring something real and it seems to be generalizable because of the way that when you do well on one benchmark, you tend to do well on others. And so, yeah, we're in a situation where on one hand, there are things that are causing AI development to slow down. And yet Google with their pre-training work and some of the stuff that they did in a unique way, they've all of a sudden shot to the top of the charts, like above OpenAI. So it's been interesting to kind of see that development, as well as to say, hey, maybe OpenAI won't be around in 5 years. Maybe OpenAI is really not in a good position. Like, even to prep for this episode, I wanted the transcript, but we didn't save the copy of the video and the transcript from the prep. So I used Google to get the transcript from our prediction episodes because it has access to YouTube videos and can easily pull the transcript and did it word for word accurate. Whereas some of these other tools like OpenAI, they don't have access to the kind of data and infrastructure that Google does. So it feels like Google is going to consistently be in the lead.
I think if you're in tech, you've probably have heard of the term distribution, which is a key component on how do you measure if someone's going to be successful. It's like you've made a really great product. It's like best in class. But if you don't have the distribution channels on how to actually like get customers aware or embedded in their workflows and stuff, you might actually still lose. So Google,
just because you build it doesn't mean they come.
Yeah. So they have YouTube, they have Gmail, they have like all of these hooks that are in your natural workflow. So maybe they're late, but you're not going to switch to these other platforms. So when they eventually come, you're like, oh yeah, that's great. Now it's better. However, I do think search, they did add like Gemini into search, but I do think ChatGPT did get a lot of people during that period and they did generate these patterns of like, oh, like and they have a captive base of like, maybe even consumer users.
They're approaching 1 billion users on OpenAI's ChatGPT. Like it's a heavily used platform. People are addicted to it in many ways.
Yeah. So they have distribution, especially with end users, but they don't have as much distribution in terms of like code generation, right? With like Claude, and that's like pretty big. And the code generation is like, hey, this is the best one. Everyone's gonna use it. That one, I don't know as much about loyalty there. But in any case, like I think, distribution is a key factor as to like why Google is like really rushing ahead. And then Sam Altman is being quoted as saying, hey, it's a code red internally at ChatGPT. We really have to invest more in research. We have to make these breakthroughs. And some of the key, researchers like Mira Murati or Ilya have like moved on to start their own companies where they're like, we're going to actually make these breakthrough researches and get to AGI. But the only thing is like research is it's very experimental. I think the interesting thing is like Wall Street doesn't really like you saying, "Hey, we're just gonna put a bunch of researchers in a room and hopefully we'll come up with a good idea." It's like a lot easier to be like, throw $1 billion at it and you will get this much growth. It's like a
Yeah.
very like nice linear statement. So we are moving a little bit away from scaling to like you do have to have some of these like breakthroughs. And it is a little bit of chance. I'm like, who is gonna have? Of course, there's some intuition, and that's why these researchers make more than $1 billion.
No, those are good and helpful insights because, yeah, I think it gets a sense of this lukewarm AI improvements that it doesn't feel as revolutionary as it did a year ago. And yet you still use it, and then all of a sudden it does something for you. And wow, it's powerful. So I want to get to our two predictions on one, the rise of AI agents, and second, edge AI. So we're going to talk about those two things. But I also, we get into that and the predictions and whether or not they were accurate, maybe we should just do like for the sake of listeners who might not use AI as much, what are we using AI for and what are we getting benefit from it specifically? And where are the pros and cons of our use in terms of just practical tips? Austin, do you want to jump in and share how you're using it?
Yeah.
And
Y- Yeah. I mean, truthfully, I'm not using AI for very much. The most specific thing I've done with AI was used Perplexity Pro to help me with some research for some church history lectures that I gave for my church a couple of months ago. But that's really been about it. I haven't had a need to use AI as much as I had been using it back when I was working for the Gospel Coalition, and so I'm just not right now. My wife is. My wife uses Chat GPT for her work, and she uses Otter to transcribe her meetings with her caregivers. They give permission for her to record it, and so it's all good. She's all done her compliance work there. Uh, but she uses it really well there. Really, the thing that I use AI the most for is conversation fodder. As I'm talking about AI on the radio pretty frequently and talking about uh, AI chatbots and AI relationships with students and the way that even the normal, not super heavy use AI has just so deeply permeated things like education, things like teenage social life. Am I using any of that? No, but I'm talking about it a lot. So I guess that's my biggest use of AI is just conversational fodder for radio spots.
yeah,
Andrew, what about
it's
you?
interesting.
Are you like, are you a heavy user or are you like a light user? I'm gonna say, Austin, you're a light user. More than
I
maybe
Yeah,
many, though.
I am
Yeah,
right now. But earlier this year, though, I was definitely a heavy user. I was using it every day. But then it changed jobs, and it's just changed.
right. Yeah.
I would say I'm a heavy user. Um, and I use primarily I'm using three different tools: Claude, OpenAI's ChatGPT, and Gemini. Now, part of it is to do research retrieval for me. Like I want it to retrieve,
Hmm.
especially when I'm doing research on AI. A lot of AI documentation is published on Archive, which has an X instead of a CH. And it's published there for the sake, even pre published there for the sake of easy retrieval by AI tools. So it has a whole system now of that sort of thing. And so it's very easy to ask Google or any of the tools to just do the research for you. And that is a difference between 2 years ago and today. This research function that these AI tools have, it not only does the research and pulls it for you, but it also like summarizes and pulls the key quotes. And I always just like tell it, I want the quotes from the text itself. I That's what I prefer over and above just the summaries that the AI tool gives. So I've learned how to accommodate my preferences through how I prompt or write my requests in the chat tools. And then I find it's super helpful. I had this weird experience with I'm teaching a course next semester and I shared with some people, hey, I'm going to have some course readings, and it's a significant number of course readings. So I'm taking excerpts from The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. So I own that book on Kindle. I copy and pasted a bunch of that book, not more than a chapter, but a bunch of it. And I'm going to print it as well as full articles from Mere Orthodoxy, as well as full articles from other websites that are available for free, as well as some journal articles that are gated through my university account, or you'd have to pay like $50 per one journal article or something stupid. Now, I thought it was in fair use, and my initial research was that it was fair use, but 2 days ago, I had the feeling that, oh, wait a second, it's not. And it was a case where pretty much every AI tool, because I often take a prompt, send it into one, and then I'll send it into the other, they were all too cautious. They all started warning me, you shouldn't be doing this. This is too dangerous. You shouldn't print off these things and have them on campus for students. You can only link to them and link to the websites. But then I got it to do more specific research on, well, what is actual case law in Canada and what is fair use defined as? And then I had to really do my own reading. I found an article written by a lawyer. I found the exact, claims themselves. And I found out that, oh no, what I'm doing is under fair use because of the 6 criteria that were defined by a Canadian judge in court against this back and forth. And there's this big case against York University and access copyright. And access copyright is like the big evil, I learned all this stuff, but it was interesting how even though that stuff was on the internet, the AI tools were too cautious and didn't actually give me a good response initially. And they hallucinated, whatever you want to call it. They didn't give a good result. So even though I'm using it daily, I still consistently find flaws in what they do. Even recently, I got it to give me a summary, like maybe a few weeks ago, I got it to give me a summary of After Virtue by Alistair McIntyre, which is a book that I'm reading through, and it's an important book. And I asked it I actually did this through voice chat because sometimes I use AI in that use case. So I asked it to voice chat. And what I've learned is that voice chat is very rudimentary in terms of power. It doesn't have those additional research steps. And I asked it to summarize the critiques of After Virtue, and it gave this thing that it's not a very nuanced argument. Well, now that I'm more than halfway through After Virtue, it's an incredibly nuanced argument. Are you kidding me to say that it's not a nuanced argument? It just to say you haven't read the book. So it's kind of a long-winded thing to say that there are some use cases for it that are helpful. Like, hey, I want to buy an indoor basketball. What are some good options for that? Just get something else to do the research for me. I have a bibliography. Can you double check the accuracy of it? Create a few images for me. I used Riverside's AI. We use Riverside's AI tools a ton for our own podcast to help remove blank spaces. And now you can actually click a button and it'll create B-roll. It's not that good, but it is B-roll. And if you admit that it's AI B-roll, then you can have some background images. And I created a short explainer for my course and then used B-rolls so that I would make the video more interesting. So if I'm working in, social media and things like that, there are some super simple, easy use cases. If I'm creating a poster for an event, there's a lot of things like that are helpful to use. And so I think you can absolutely use it, but I don't use it to write for me. I just use it to critique my writing, give me feedback, and I think it's useful for all those things.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of use cases, and I think a lot of it is knowing when to use it and also knowing what to use, right? Like which model and even the other day I was like, oh, make me a picture in ChatGPT and it showed me the whole cartoonish style. And then I used Nano Banana Pro, which is Google's, and it was way better, way more realistic. So it's you just have how do you know which model to use even? And there's tons of them out there. So yeah, again, we're still in the early phases, which is interesting if you want to take it to our, let's start with maybe our AI predictions. So I think the first one, Andrew, if you want to recap, was the rise of AI agents, which I think a lot of people will dispute, but also kind of agree with. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I over predicted this one based around the hype that I was hearing from others. And when I listened back to that episode 12 months ago almost, I was pretty cautious. I was saying that AI will be doing multi steps on your behalf rather than just a single step. And that is what we see. So, for example, you can ask it, search the internet for this, find key quotes, then analyze those quotes, then create a Word document based around that, and then also create a PowerPoint presentation up based around all of those things. And it'll just do all of that for you on its own. It won't double check. It might double check at the beginning just for a clarification question, but it will do multiple steps for you, including now in December 2025. I use Claude for this. Claude is great for making PowerPoint presentations, making Google Docs. Some people are joking that they seem to be better at making Google documents than Google is. They make Microsoft Word documents. You can upload a Microsoft Word document into Claude and it will double check. Like I had my syllabus complete, but I simply uploaded it and I said, double check for typos and any feedback or whatever. And it caught an error that I made in terms of writing the dates. I just duplicated 2 days when I should have separated them. Something that I'm sorry, to read through the entire syllabus again and check for typos. I had gone through that syllabus so many times. I was sick of looking at it, but I needed that double check and it did a great job. So it does do good things. It does do agentic stuff, but I think we were expecting at the beginning of 2025 for there to be more, it's going to buy something for you with the single prompt. It's going to do more of that stuff on its own, whereas maybe that's 2026.
Yeah, I think what people are saying, and I think you actually explained it pretty well. Of like, we can do multiple steps. Like we have like so many, coding, like make an app for me, and it will go and do it. But we actually get a lot of quote unquote AI slop. I think that was like a newer term, and it really like talks about the accuracy and what kind of a lot of the leaders are saying. It's like, hey, maybe we over indexed on how valuable intelligence is. Maybe general intelligence isn't necessarily that hard to do. It's more about agency. And agency, which we have as humans, is actually a lot harder to replicate into, a generalized AI to like know how to do and know how to like make those decisions and like also double check and everything like that. So I think basically we kind of saw a roadmap on how to create agentic workflow, but when we got there, it was like, it's not as good, and there's more here that we still have to learn about. Is where we're at.
Yeah. Okay. What about the next prediction in terms of edge AI? So, Joel, you went through this cake at the beginning of the year. You said there's 3 layers to the cake. At the first level, there's the chips, NVIDIA. The second layer of the cake is these different tools like Gemini or ChatGPT. But then there's an application layer. And you are predicting that we're going to see an evolution there. Do you think that is proven true?
Yeah, I think, yeah, even like a lot of the big deals, I'm like, was that this year with like Windsurf, for example, is another like coding application. They got acquired for billions of dollars by Microsoft, and then Microsoft was like rolling them into something else. I think it was Microsoft. But to any point, like there's a lot of these applications. So definitely there's an application boom. That was right. I also kind of predicted that there would be more, let's call it edge AI, where it's like smaller models that could run not necessarily on like the cloud, but like on an edge device, like on your phone and stuff like that. And I think that one I'm going to give like a mixed result for the edge part. I do think we saw like DeepSeek and all of these like edge models come out, but it wasn't. I still think they don't meet the quality standard for someone to say like I'm definitely going to go use the edge model rather than just like pump it back to the main foundational model in the cloud. I think that that shift hasn't happened, but the application layer is definitely like, booming, and that's where everyone's still going to.
Okay. So, yeah, mostly accurate. I think we got Claude to review whether or not that would be accurate. And Claude said, "Yeah, you did a great job, but you were kinder on yourself than Claude was,
Yeah.
it seemed."
Yeah, I
What
think,
about
yeah.
no, no, no. What about for Austin's Honey PayPal scandal fallout? So this was something where Austin, I felt like at the moment, you said something to the effect of there's going to be apocalyptic repercussions for commerce and the internet because of this honey scam. And the honey scam was basically a link that people were using in order to get return on advertising for various companies. They would use honey to track it, and honey would actually rip them off. And this became a
Yeah.
problem at the end of last year. But then it stemmed into problems this year, and now has it changed the internet forever, Austin?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. It's still very much an ongoing situation. There are multiple class action lawsuits, both in the United States and the United Kingdom, uh, in motion right now. But a couple of them, one of them just got dismissed a couple of days ago. They're the the plaintiffs are having a hard time proving actual tort in their claims, so they're being dismissed without prejudice, meaning that they can be refiled again if the claims are amended. But this is starting to become a pattern where PayPal and Honey, the defendants in this case, are getting some pretty easy early wins, which is not a good sign. I will say though, I like as far as this prediction goes, definitely mixed. I was right that this would be a thing, and it has been a thing. And I would say that I was right in that we did see quite a bit of change to the way internet marketing does work in 2025. We did see some pretty substantial changes, like to Meta ads and to other e-commerce e-commerce techniques and strategies in light of this case. But was it apocalyptic? No, I definitely overstated that. Um, I it's still ongoing. It's not over yet. It's weirdly enough not going well for the people that are correctly alleging. I'm fully on their side. Correctly alleging that Honey stole revenue from them that they were owed by using their service. Uh, so it's not going well for them, but it it didn't have that much of an impact. And truth be told, I didn't think about this again until we were getting ready for this episode like an hour ago. I totally forgot that I had even made this prediction, which just goes to show even for myself, like, oh yes, at the time we recorded that episode, this was a huge thing on my radar. And then it disappeared for like 12 months. So that goes to show just how big of a deal it actually was.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel that way. Like the longer we do this podcast, the more I get a sense of how much do I hype things versus just be honest about in the grand scheme of things, this latest tech news may not be the biggest deal at all. And
Yeah.
even though it feels like it in the moment. And it's always a balance because it's you want to stay up to date on the latest news, but it's really these larger trends that I think are more interesting. Bitcoin is
Yeah.
our next topic. Bitcoin's trend is trending up overall, but I would, in the same pessimistic take that I would have at the beginning of 2025, I would still hold to that to a degree that I don't see it changing the world anytime soon, even if it reached an all-time high a few months after Joel predicted that it would be a great thing to invest in. Well, if you listen to Joel, you make money apparently, because there was Trump legislation on, you know, crypto coin stuff and all that kind of thing in 2025. But it's also seen a dip recently. It's been it's been down 27% from its all-time high. Like that's a significant drop. We're saying this now at the end of 2025 where it's had a bad couple months. But Joel, you said there would be a rise in stable coins and general crypto growth. You didn't like say that it was going to be astronomical. So I still would admit to you that you were correct.
Yeah, I
Right, Joel?
think if like yeah, if you asked me like a month ago, I would say that like wow, like crypto's all-time high. This is like right, maybe even more than a month ago. And then just generally the economy has been kind of like a little bit like sluggish. and crypto is a little bit of a risk on assets. So it's really getting taken to the woodshed right now. Um, if you're in crypto, you're feeling the pain again, right? It's like one of those things. It's like when it's high, you're living like a king, and when it's low, you're living like a pauper. Um, I think that's the value. However, I do think where I would give points is like the adoption of stable coins, like you said, the policies, all those things actually push this technology further down the maturity scale to where it's like being used for more. And I do think we're seeing a lot of stable coins. Even the other day, I was talking to someone in ministry, and he was saying, like, yeah, like if I want to send money to someone in Africa for ministry, I got to use Western Union, and there's all these middlemen. It's like, why can't I just send it direct? And it's like people are thinking of like stable coins for ministry. So huge potential still, continuing to grow. Definitely have that same trend for this space.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about the two most accurate, most bullish predictions that both of you made at the beginning of this year, and they've proved to be true. And I did not see either of these come in the same way that both of you did. Let's start with what Austin described as basically, he said across Canada, Europe, across the West, there will be a tipping point where maybe not the majority of people will be moving away from phones free schools and kind of a anti-social media posture or whatever. Not necessarily majority, but there will be a tipping point where there will be a large momentum for that. And that's exactly what we've seen. Austin, do you want to gloat in your prediction accuracy?
I mean, I'm very thankful that this is actually what is happening, and it's undeniable that it's happening. You like the kind of anti-Haidt crowd, anti-Haidt being anti-Jonathan Haidt, author of The Anxious Generation. They're really on the back foot here, and they know it. They know that the arguments for having unlimited smartphone access for students in schools um, has just they've lost that argument, and they're in retreat at the moment, which is good as it should be. I shed no tears for their loss there. It's really amazing to see how much bipartisan support there is for this. This is something that unites people all across the political divide, as something that is good and needs to happen. It has support from legislators, from educators, from parents. You have a strong buy-in from multiple parties. This isn't just a top-down power play from one particular group of people. And public opinion is really starting to shift on this as well, in a way that wasn't the case even just a couple of years ago. And so this really is 2025 really was the year when Jonathan Haidt probably changed education for the next several years. There's still a lot of work to do, and there's still a long way to go. But even in secular publications, and I can't think of any specific ones off the top of my head, but I know I've read these pieces. Have been interviewing teachers and parents and students after some of these bans have been enacted across the country, and the response is immediately and overwhelmingly positive. Like it's like there's no drawbacks, no complaints, no criticism of it. As soon as these bans are implemented and are given a week or two to be lived out, nobody wants to go back, and nobody is going back.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the note here on New York requiring like a bell to bell restriction, which I'm guessing is like the opening bell and the closing bell. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, that's one of Haidt's 4 key principles that he outlines in The Anxious Generation. He says that without a bell to bell restriction, a smartphone restriction is anything short of that is almost meaningless. It has to be bell to bell in order for the impacts to be clearly seen.
Yeah, it's I did not see this one coming. And I'm happy as well that it did.
Yeah, Pew Research said that 74% of US adults said they would support banning middle and high school students from using cell phones during class. That's up from 68% last fall. That was in July 16th this summer. So, there's just an increasing amount of people who are supportive of banning phones in schools. And I saw it reported that the average time spent on social media platforms has actually gone down. Now,
Yeah.
this gets into a more difficult thing because you did say in that segment at the beginning of this year that you don't expect social media use to go down, but then you define social media as inclusive of group chats and Discord and
Yes.
things like that.
Yes.
And so when you,
Yeah.
which isn't included in those sorts of metrics. So I think we are seeing
Correct.
a fragmentation of the internet. It's less, hey, everybody's on Facebook. Nope, your grandma's on Facebook, but your sister-in-law isn't, and they are on 3 apps that you've never heard of,
Yes.
and the ones you have. We're in a different sort of time now, in terms of social media dynamics. Video still dominates. I think that's an interesting thing that is just sad to me, how much
That's
time
not
is
go
wasted on short
Yeah.
form video. Because there's more and more
Yeah, that's not
research
going
this year
away.
of how bad social media short form videos are. Do not get addicted to them. If you're watching our shorts on TikTok and you're seeing our little clip, you should use that as a reminder to get off TikTok. Though apparently TikTok, there's a study that shows that short form videos are worse on all platforms except TikTok. Like TikTok is still
Oh, yeah.
bad for your
Oh,
mental
no.
health, still bad for your
It
attention
is
span and thinking, but it's better
YouTube
than
and
watching reels on Instagram.
yeah, YouTube and Meta, it's hard to describe how much strictly inferior the short form video experience is from top to bottom on both of those sites. And I'd say that as somebody who does short form video myself, TikTok is incredible. It is genuinely the greatest social media algorithm ever made, and it's not even close. And Meta, I mean that from a technical standpoint too. Like Meta and YouTube, with all of their treasure, their war chest of resources, cannot successfully clone it. Their algorithms are very cheap imitations of what TikTok does. But no, Andrew, to go back to your point though, like I have a fun personal anecdote of my own. Uh, so I am using less quote unquote old school social media than I ever have before, ever since I left my social media role for TTC. But my screen time has shot up some. My weekly phone screen time has shot up some, and it's because I'm spending more time on Discord. And so it's like on the one hand, like yeah, I'm not spending. I've left X completely. I had a piece in Mere Orthodoxy this week about how it was actually the Mere Orthodoxy Discord server that helped me get off of X. But weirdly enough, I'm still spending just as much time, if not more, on social media. It's just a completely different type of social media. So, in one sense, if you were to look at my like public social media activity, it looks like I've disappeared, but I actually haven't. I'm just channeling that time somewhere else.
Yeah, it
Yeah, that's
was
interesting.
a good piece for Mere Orthodoxy. That's a trend I wasn't predicting in 2025, is Austin to be published on the Gospel Coalition, Christianity Today, Mere Orthodoxy, just
I believe
3
the
of the
term
leading
for
evangelical outlets.
Let's go.
yeah, I believe the term for that is a hat trick. If I understand
There
the
you
There you
go.
go.
if I understand the lingo, but yeah, truly blessed, truly blessed.
That's cool.
Okay, and then you
Well,
have
your
the
screen,
last prediction.
I was going to say, yeah, like Austin's screen time is going to keep going up because this last
I know. Oh my
prediction
gosh.
says that your
Oh my
screen
gosh.
will be embedded into your glasses.
Yeah,
Do you have
I
your pair with
mean,
you, Joel? You should put your glasses on for this segment. If you have
I mean,
them.
yeah, I do have them. This is like the older generation, which I think we've had before in the past.
They look
They are
good.
Meta
Like, dude,
glasses. They're regular Meta
they look
glasses.
good
Yeah.
on you.
And the newer pair, which is only like, let's say, slightly thicker here, but the front looks largely the same, and you cannot see the display. That was what I was actually most impressed about, is like in all the videos that came out, you cannot see the display. But if I look like a little bit to the side, I can see it. And yeah, I was super impressed. Even though I made this prediction that they would come out with Meta display glasses in 2025. I didn't actually, I thought there was a good chance they would slip. All of these things slip, but they came out, they launched it, albeit it seems that it's hard to get a hold of them and you have to go and have a personalization experience to get them. So they're still, maybe they're slow rolling it.
Is it? I can get
That's
one
what
at
I
my
heard.
local. I can get them at my
Oh, yeah,
local
can
Best
you?
Buy. Yeah,
Well,
my wife has tried them on at the local Best Buy.
The regular Meta or the Meta with the display?
Good question. But it was recent though. I know that the Ray-Bans, like they're kind of entry level Ray-Bans, are kind of
Yeah,
generally available everywhere.
that's right. Yeah,
But
and they
no,
did a lot of volume with those ones. Yeah.
they're doing a ton of volume with those. Like, that may be the thing that actually saves Meta in the long term. Is the metaverse has failed. Their AI stuff isn't going well. Their smart glasses line may actually be the thing that gives them another shot at life.
Yeah, no, I think Apple was supposed to be the forerunner in this space with Vision Pro, and that is a huge flop. So Meta is the leader in augmented reality.
This is an early 2026 prediction. I am going to predict that Apple announces, not necessarily releases, but announces its own pair of smart glasses in 2026. It just seems inevitable at this point. They could easily. I think that's what the whole point of the liquid glass shift was for, to give design language that would work well embedded in glasses frames proper. No, Joel, you were so on point with this, and like, you're only going to be more on point with it as time goes on.
It's one of those things. It's they don't have an open developer ecosystem, but if they did, for any of the developers out there, build some apps on it, and then like you'll have like first mover advantage. Like, I think I'll definitely do that one day.
So let's ask Claude. How does Claude think that it did? How does Claude think that we did at doing predictions? Like, how are we doing as a tech podcast? Claude. Oh, got to turn your volume up.
Thanks for bringing me into the conversation.
So Claude, how did we do at
I've been listening quietly to your excellent discussion about the state of AI and your 2025 predictions. It's fascinating to hear how your predictions played out. From what I heard, Andrew's AI agent's prediction was directionally right. We definitely saw the rise of agentic workflows, though maybe not the complete end of SaaS. Joel absolutely nailed both the Edge AI prediction and the Meta glasses with display prediction. That was remarkably prescient. Austin's phone-free schools prediction was spot on. That tipping point really did happen in 2025. The Honey PayPal situation is still ongoing in litigation, and crypto had the volatility Joel expected, though with that major October crash. What strikes me most is how accurate you all were about the broader trends, even if some of the specifics played out differently than expected. Joel especially seemed to have great hardware intuition. Is there anything specific about these predictions?
All right, so it thinks that we did a great job, which is wonderful.
I hear it, and I just tune it out because I don't believe it's actually being truthful. I think it's just trying to flatter me, and so I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't believe you.
Well, now that we've done it a couple of times, I'm like, I feel like this is either a British model that you picked or something, but it uses the same terms of fascinating and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. The charm has worn off a little bit here. That being said, I guess, yeah, like, it makes sense that I have some level of intuition as a guy who actually works in tech. So there's like an advantage I have as to some sort of layperson prediction. But you guys have had like equally as important insight into not just like the technology, but like the societal impact, right? So yeah, I love what we have here, and I think I'm looking forward to the next year's prediction episode.
I think next year's prediction is going to be different because with my career change, like, one of the things that was a double-edged sword was Andrew and I were kind of living in the same space as theologians, kind of living and writing and breathing the same stuff. But now that I am in a pastoral ministry position, the stuff that I study and the questions that I'm dealing with are now pretty different. And like, I'm still learning and feeling out just like, oh, there's been a pretty substantial change for me here. And so instead of having a technologist and like two theologians. We now have a technologist, a theologian / academic, and a pastor. And I think that will make next year's predictions even more broad and diverse.
So this has been the professor, the pastor, and the tech podcaster together in 2025. Join us for our prediction episode coming soon to a podcast player near you. You can like and review us on any podcast app. You can send us an email. You can just send whatwouldjesustech@gmail.com or go to our website, whatwouldjesustech.com. And we've been getting more YouTube comments. Shout out to people who are commenting on YouTube. We read every single one of them. We don't always respond, but we like to have some conversations there, as well as have conversations for the most part on our Discord. So feel free to join our Discord, link in the description, and you can support us on Patreon. Thank you for listening. Use tech, find rest, and glorify God. Take care.